Monday morning in the capital, Nairobi, and conversations around sport and what's happening all around, the world as far as the news is concerned. Well, in sports today, two conversations. One, we're going to bring in a little bit of diplomacy. Kenya and Finland, where do the cooperation that Kenya and Finland has, in a lot of areas. And so we're going to be joined by His Excellency Pekka Tapiola, who is the ambassador of Finland to Kenya. So please, so he's going to be joining us shortly. And also, Kenya, think of this. In the next 2 months, we're going to be hosting the Championship of African Nations, that is CHAN. Then we are also going to be hosting the Kenya Open Golf Championship. That's a DP World Tour event. It's up there. We're going to be hosting the Sirikwa Classic. It's a gold level cross-country tour meeting. And then we've got the WRC Safari Rally. What is it that the country can do to make the most out of that over the next 2 months? And later, we are going to have the Keep Keno Classic coming in May. So a lot of events coming the way of Kenyans. And they always say there's only one way to do it. Make sure it works very well. So right now, let's also just to mention some of the other events that we're going to be looking at as far as the news is concerned. Number one is that we've got the new Ethics and Anti-Corruption CEO, Abdi Mohammed, to be sworn in at the Supreme Court at 10 a.m. And this is before the Honorable Chief Justice Martha Koome. And he's going to take over from former CEO Twalib Mbarak, who exited the commission on Friday, the 10th of January 2025, after the expiry of his 6-year term. So part of the stories that we're going to be looking at today and all that is happening all around the country. Welcome, and let's get conversing. Our sign language interpreter within this hour is Brian Muraro. So right now, let me welcome Balozi and His Excellency Pekka Tapiola. I got the name right.
Yes, absolutely, Daniel. Thank you. Thank you, David. Good morning. Great to be here.
Great to be here. Yes, and it's a pleasure to you. And let's just get straight into this conversation, about Finland. From those of us in the world of sport, we know it as the land of 1,000 lakes because of the rugby.
Yes.
Others call it the land of the Northern Lights. You've got...
All correct so far.
Okay.
Both correct.
And it is also a country that has had a long-standing relationship with Kenya.
Absolutely.
So, so I'm sure you already got used to being addressed to as Balozi.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So it's our way of doing it here. Yes. So just background, Kenya's relationship with Finland over the years and how the changes have come.
Well, I mean, first of all, the relationship is excellent. And I think it's worth noting that the Finnish embassy in Nairobi is our largest embassy in Africa. Just to put the importance of this country and this region. Of course, I'm accredited to 4 other countries and 2 UN organizations as well. So that keeps me very busy. But this is a long-standing relationship. And you've seen that with the Nordics, we were just celebrating 60 years of diplomatic relations. We've had an embassy here resident embassy since the late 70s. I just noted that the residence where I live was, we moved in 1980. It's been, of course, renovated after that, but it's been really a very close relationship. Now, where the relationship has been transforming is that I suppose that like with many African countries, when we came here, this was really a relationship based on development cooperation, a donor-recipient relationship. That relationship has now evolved into an equal partnership between strong countries. We are smaller than you, of course. You are a leader, a leading democracy, a leading actor in East Africa, in Africa as a whole. And I'd say that we are now very much focusing on peace and security, trade, but also development. We've been working on gender equality, countering gender-based violence, fighting against femicide and FGM are particularly close issues to my own heart. We've been improving the quality and relevance of technical and vocational education and training, and trying to get jobs and skills to a young population in a country where the median age is only 19, where you have great potential. So we are now moving away from development cooperation to this partnership, to more private sector instruments. We have an office of our Finnish Development Investment Fund, FinFund, the first office outside Finland in the world, here in Nairobi. They have a portfolio of 58 million euros of projects in Kenya. We're working on soft loan projects with something we call the Public Investment Facility. The first 24.5 million euro PIF project in maternity hospitals was put in place. Civil society is active. Trade is going. Academic cooperation is big. The University of Nairobi is one of the 4 universities in the world with which the University of Helsinki has a strategic partnership. So you can really see the plethora of this relationship. And as I said, we have been a superpower for peace mediation. Our former president, late President Matti Ahtisaari, had a Nobel Peace Prize for that. So we are also looking very much at how we can work with Kenya on peace mediation. So there's a big relationship there.
Well, actually, one of the ones that actually catches me is, the technical and vocational,
Yes.
relationship. And, for example, the University of Helsinki working with the University of Nairobi.
Yes.
Are you looking at this such that some of this technical knowledge, that Finland has developed over the years can now actually come down to the global south?
Absolutely, absolutely. But if I say, for instance, in TVET, where we're working together with the Germans as well, what we're really trying to propose is to work on something called a dual TVET model, which means that that not only do kids, girls and boys, get education in vocational training colleges, but they also get practical experience from companies. Because education is relevant when it brings jobs, when it brings economic welfare, when it brings futures. And that's why I think getting the corporate sector here and getting these young people from school to practice at companies, going back to school, back to the companies, and then getting employment, that I think is very important.
The whole peace building cooperation, because just looking at your portfolio, looking at you're accredited to the Horn of Africa.
Absolutely. Somalia is a very important country for us. We also have a big Somali diaspora in Finland, so there's a domestic aspect there as well. And yes, we are very committed to working on state building with Somalia and bringing stability to the region. We have Finnish soldiers working in EU training missions in Somalia. We have Finnish police officers training Somali police forces. But we also have this sort of experience of peace mediation. And in 2023, we had our first course for Kenyan diplomats here in Nairobi on peace mediation. And of course, we were in line with our sort of focus on gender equality. We were focusing on female diplomats, but also men were allowed into that course as well, as long as it was a 50-50 participation. So there's a lot we can do here.
Well, let me now also talk about the environment, because this is a sports program, and there's a lot of, you live in a country where the north, there's forests, and at parts of the north, at times can get cold, and everyone's talking about how this can affect. And it also has a connection with a lot of the sports that people in Finland do. I would call them the winter sports.
Yes, absolutely.
What are the lessons that you've learned conserving your forests and also making sure that people understand, if you don't take care of what your natural heritage is, then you may not have a future.
We have actually learned that the hard way initially. Because back in 1960s and so on, when urbanization was, we were an agrarian country to begin with, when urbanization was sort of booming and people were moving from the countryside to cities, many people inherited forests and they sold them quite easily off, and you had sort of what you'd call felling of trees, almost like you sort of raise or barber hair so that you would raise empty spots, and we saw quite fast.
Look like my haircut.
I don't. Not can make good comments on that one. So you had this feeling. You had this sort of quick way of making money on forests, and I think quite soon we realized. And I used to work for the pulp and paper industry, which did a lot in this sort of field as well. We realized that this is not sustainable. Luckily, we realized it early enough. So we really went to sustainable forestry models, where you would both make sure that your forest coverage remains, but you could also use the forests. You could fell trees and so on. You don't have to sort of barber everything. You can take a tree there, a tree here, there, and so on. You will keep your forests, but you get the economic benefit from them as well. And I think we really learned sustainable, well-functioning forestry management techniques, which we have been promoting globally as well. Sometimes we've even had problems in that we've said that we've come into countries which have tried to sort of keep their forestry coverage, and they have had a total ban on felling trees, and suddenly we see that our model doesn't work because it actually includes the economic exploitation of forests, but in a sustainable way.
So if you got to make your furniture, make sure you just get enough tree for the wood. Don't just fell it, for all of that. And
absolutely,
like, everyone's moving away from paper too, because that's another big part of it. And let's now come to...
I still like to have my papers in front of me, though, but I get used to it. Trying to go paperless as
school way. Always have the paper. We're also seeing that Finland and Kenya is doing it. Actually, at times when I look at it, it always seems to be almost by accident or incident. First, the Embassy of Finland, not directly, but indirectly, has been involved in promotion of, grassroots initiative, Mngaro Mtaani, the Sune Cup. Just give us as to how, the Embassy of Finland got to be indirectly involved, not directly.
I know very clearly how we got involved because I was the one who involved us. Now, it is indeed true that we don't support Mngaro Mtaani directly. They're doing valuable work, organizing these cups for underprivileged kids, giving them opportunities, and I look at them from one year to another and I see the same players as well. Now, who's Sune? Sune is a retired municipal officer who's been traveling after his retirement quite a bit, and even before that, around the world, also partially because his daughter is working for the United Nations, and that, I think, brought him also. And he's a guy with a big heart who's been sort of wanting to promote grassroots initiatives, and the named their football cup, annual football cup, the Sune Cup. Now, I was contacted by a colleague who knew the family and said that, look, there is this cup coming. Would you want to find out a bit more about it? And I sort of then sent a few messages and found this is actually so much in line with what Finland is about. Grassroots level. It's about community organization. It's about bottom-up initiatives. And when I was then asked by the organizers, would you care to come and sort of hand over the prizes and give a bit? Yeah, sure. This is and I really appreciate what is being done with these kids. And I'm very proud that somewhere on said, well, what am I doing next Sunday? Or Sunday 3 weeks from, I could actually go. And now I think that we've become a bit more established in that we give some gifts to some school equipment to the kids who are playing. We're trying to support them. I'm very happy to see that boys and girls are both, and girls and boys are both playing. Gender equal opportunities are very, very important in our foreign policy. So it's been kind of a very nice thing, and a very Finnish thing in its low-key way, to support, and that's actually how I waded into this. And I certainly, now this is the third time I've done it, last weekend, and I'm certainly, or not last weekend, before last, and I'm certainly committed to ensuring that when I leave one day, that my successor would continue doing this, because this is really, really nice. It's really a nice thing. It's a good thing, and I see the kids, I see their passion, and actually they're becoming better players every year.
Well, interesting enough, when you talk about gender equality, when it comes to the football side, we always say that the Kenyan the women's national teams are outperforming the men's teams left, right, and center. Mm-hmm. Well, the results are there and they do speak for themselves. But there is one aspect that you want, that whenever, I've seen the sport, being used sport for development or, working at grassroots level at this level is trying to bring in the whole aspect of fair play such that,
Yes, absolutely.
you don't have the, what would I say, the full-time winner-takes-all mentality. What are some of the things that, the initiatives that, you'd like people to learn from what Finland has done and can be imparted in Kenya?
Well, I mean, I really like what you're saying, that we should not have a winner-takes-all mentality. And I have to say, when I look at these kids play, it's the participation which matters. Of course, everybody wants to win, but it gives opportunities, it gives possibilities. And sometimes, for instance, the best goalkeeper is not from the winning team. The best striker is not from the winning team. So it really does give possibilities. Now, fair play is extremely important. I had a boss who used to say, please play by the rules, not with the rules. And if I've ever taken one motto in my life, that's been it. Play by the rules and not with the rules. Don't give bribes, don't try to find shortcuts. Do it right. You can't, very often at least, bribe a football referee. They're pretty tough, but they are there to ensure that people are playing fair, and that fair play is there. And that is one thing why I think it's so important that young kids play sports. They don't get the feeling that, well, we really have there are shortcuts in life. No, you have to do it. You have to play. You have to follow the rules. You have to know the rules. You have to play by them, and that will bring you success. And that's what every speech I've given when I've been giving these prizes has had that quote from my former boss Javier Solana, whom I worked for when I worked for the EU, which was, don't. And he said it to a president who had been playing with elections, and had said that once. Not in this country. I'm not going to tell which country. Just don't play with the rules. Play by the rules, not with the rules.
Well, a very strong message that comes through, and everyone who's watching then, you can pick that phrase and keep it, write it, curate it, and do not forget about it. Something more Finnish, winter sports.
Yes,
well, here's the story.
Freezing, I have to say.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, here's the story. Kenya has been at the Winter Olympics since 1998, and everyone, for the first time, what they said? Well, Kenya are trying to bring out something, or is it the sports kids that are trying to market themselves by involving Kenyans in winter sports? Cross-country skiing is one of the sports that Kenya has been represented in at the Winter Olympics, and at the moment, the one sure person we know who can always be at the Winter Olympics is Sabrina Zimmerman, who is an alpine skier. But let's talk about cross-country skiing and...
Yes.
The fact that Philip Boyt, the first Kenyan to be, to have gone to the Winter Olympics, trained in Finland. Just give us, the culture of this. It's long winters, lots of snow, probably all year round.
No. We have very hot summers actually nowadays. So, but yeah, long winters in that, and hopefully enough snow. Global warming has made this, and climate change has made this all so much less predictable than earlier, but I suppose we're a good place because the likelihood of snow in especially northern parts of the countries is still very, very big. Yeah.
So the whole culture of cross-country skiing and how Finland impacts this, and anyone who wants now to be Winter Olympian, maybe that's the only place they would have to go to, just like Philip Boyt.
Well, cross-country skiing is really in our DNA. We have a big country. In terms of size, it's a very, very big country. In terms of population, it's not a big country. It's about the size of Nairobi as population in a country which is very, very big, where it's 1.5 hours to fly from south to the north. So distances have been big. In winter, skiing was the way to get from one place to another. I have family who've been in reindeer farming in Lapland and so on. So when you listen to the amount of sort of territory they've covered in skiing, 50 kilometers, something like that, a day and so on. So I suppose that cross-country skiing becomes part of your DNA. Even if I'm from Helsinki, the capital, very much sort of a city boy, in school, We were put a pair of skis on and off we went cross-country skiing. Probably I didn't become that fond of it after some of those experiences. But yes, the tradition and the terrain is there. So if you want to go somewhere, the other Nordic countries have good possibilities as well, but if you want to go somewhere to learn cross-country skiing, Finland's your place.
Well, and talking about that, the other sport that, another sport, ice hockey.
Yes.
We've got the King Lions who are coming up very slowly.
Yes, but they're coming up. I mean, I have even sort of family members of staff at the embassy who play ice hockey here in Nairobi.
Well, we've got a rink. Things we can, opportunities that, may arise. I mean, how to reach out if somebody wants to get into
Isn't
this
it wonderful, by the way, that nowadays in this world, you can come from whichever climate, and Jamaica had a bobsleigh team, as you know.
Yes, cool runnings.
Yes, yeah. But if you want to do something, you will find a way of doing it. Isn't that wonderful?
Very great.
Yeah.
So, well, the other sport that, everyone would like, in Kenya, follows rallying.
Yes.
It is very deep.
Now we're getting finished.
We're getting finished now.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Flying Finns. And
yes,
first
absolutely.
of all, what makes the people of Finland good drivers? I've seen, what you would call local rallying, where somebody would drive, they don't have the high-end cars, but when you look at the competition and the skill level, it's way out of this world.
I think actually the answer is the same as with cross-country skiing. Big country, long distances. Now the roads are good about everywhere, but there was a time when sort of you had quite a bit of dirt roads in the countryside, and you still do actually, and so on. So Finns learn to drive. They learn to drive in hard conditions. Ice, snow, sleet, mud, you name it, we'll drive in it. And that's what you see with the Flying Finns as well. It is quite a feat that in 1972, that's so 53 years ago?
Yes, 53.
3 years ago, the first foreigner to win the Safari Rally was actually Hannu Mikkola, a Finn, with a Swedish co-driver, so Nordic cooperation was very much there. And there have been others, there have been Vatanen, Kankkunen, others, and even now the last two Safari Rallies have been won by a Finn, a young driver by the name of Kalle Rovanperä. So I think that our distances, terrain, climate conditions make us like driving in difficult circumstances and being quite good at it, and that's why we've had all these great rally drivers. And rally is a big thing also in Finland. And I have to say that the first time I heard about Kenya as a kid was linked to the Safari Rally, because of course we were very proud of our drivers.
And, okay, just a quick one. How long does it take to get a driving license in Finland?
Oh my goodness, it's been far too long since I got one. A few months, a couple of months, I would say. It's that. You have the theoretical part, the driving lessons, and since we play by the rules and not with the rules, I can tell you our drivers, when they do rally, may do pretty rough stuff, but our driving teachers in the city will certainly be very strict with you. I flunked my first driving exam just simply because I wasn't attentive at a small little sign. We're very, very rule-abiding, so we do learn to drive. But then once you get your license, you have a speed limit for a while, you have to get some extra training, you have to learn to drive in winter in difficult circumstances, and we are very, very... so we want our drivers to be good, and we want our drivers to be polite. And my other message to Kenyan drivers is pedestrians always first. One of the worst things you can do in our driving culture is that if you have a cross, even without a traffic light, and you don't stop for a pedestrian, and that's all over Europe, you will have a big problem with the police. So pedestrians first, they are king. Cars come second, but if you get off to the muddy roads, then you can play being a Flying Finn.
Well, and looking at the heritage of all these, when we go through them, from days of Hannu Mikkola, Ari Vatanen, Juha Kankkunen coming much later.
Ari I know quite well, actually.
Ari.
Yeah.
Yes. There is, I think Ari won in 83. He won
83, but when I got to know him, he was actually a member of the European Parliament representing France, but still a Finnish citizen.
Yeah, I mean, when I had that story, I actually got shocked. I wondered, okay, so what's going on here?
Yep.
Later, drivers will come in much later. We can never forget Tommy Mäkinen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Made an impact here.
Yeah.
Harry Rovanperä, and now Kalle.
Kalle.
What's that big story that comes out with Finland and rallying? I mean, when these people are known as the Flying Finns, and the story they tell.
As I said, rough roads, good driving. That's the story. We don't go for big stories. We go actually for very concrete stories as Finns.
And one of the things is, I know for anybody who, trying to get to understand how they do. We know previously we had a driver, Tapio Laukkanen.
Yes.
Came into Kenya, competed in the local championship, won it, but at the same time, played as a coach. Ways to reach out to these people who are out there, because you may probably not afford Kankunen or, Rovanperä Senior, but how do you reach out such that you can grow this the motorsport scene and great collaboration?
I would not make promises for them, and I don't have a direct answer for you, but I would always recommend with Finns, reach out and ask, because actually we like supporting new talent, and I think that that's something which comes very close to the hearts of many Finns. So I would sort of just simply go through the Safari Rally organization. I mean, I have to say very clearly that while they're very much our citizens, I see that the rally world is very much its own world. It's a family of its own, and where nationality is important, but being a driver is even more important. But I would say that I would always encourage people, if you want to get support from somebody, just ask and see what's the answer.
Well, very great. And also, Balozi, I'll also tell you one other thing, something that's been, your country inspired Kenya. We've had a world champion in the javelin throw, inspired from Finland, Julius Yego. So, great inspiration always coming from the country sporting-wise.
I am very happy to hear that. I'm very, very happy to hear that.
Yes. And as we come to a close, because it had been indicated that you're taking just about half an hour.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll put just the direction, looking at looking at the next few days, or also the next 1 or 2 years, and the cooperation that we're going to have between Kenya and Finland going.
Okay. Now, we've had quite a number of ministerial visits and so on. So our foundations are good. We're looking for a date for a second round of senior sort of permanent secretary or principal secretary level political consultations later on. I'd say that it's really going to be this sort of varied relationship, going from working on global issues, peace, security. Kenya has been a great supporter, I mean, also in the context of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine, in upholding the rules-based multilateral system. Here again, play by the rules.
Not with the rules.
Not with the rules. Secondly, trade is important. We need more economic interaction. And now the opportunities are there with the economic partnership agreement between the European Union and Kenya. So I think we should harness that also in terms of investment. But of course, I would encourage work on a slightly better investment